They told me I was unstable, and my own family believed him, while he quietly rewrote my reality and moved hidden money through accounts I was never supposed to find. But my revenge started the moment I stopped doubting myself, because what he did not see coming was the federal investigation building behind the scenes, and at 6:12 a.m., the raid hit his office and his home at the same time. By the end of it, he was facing charges that would put him in prison for years. And the truth is, I was never the broken one in this story. I was the one documenting everything. Chapter 1. I did not realize my husband was planning to erase me until I saw the message he never meant for me to see. My name is Rowan Ellery. I'm 43, and for 18 years I was married to Adrian Cole. If you met him once, you would understand why I stayed. He was steady, composed, the kind of man who made problems sound smaller just by speaking. People trusted him without thinking twice. I trusted him more than anyone. We built a company together in Boston, Cole and Ellery Analytics. He handled the front of it, the vision, the conversations, the deals. I handled the part that kept everything real. Compliance, risk, the details no one wanted to think about until something went wrong. Numbers made sense to me. They either added up or they did not. People were different. Somewhere along the way, I stopped trusting my own read on things. It was not obvious. That is what made it work. You are remembering that wrong. You always do this, Rowan. That is not what I meant. At first, I pushed back. I would replay conversations, repeat his words exactly, certain I was right. Adrian would listen, patient, almost amused, then explain it again in a way that made me hesitate. Not enough to argue, just enough to doubt. Over time, that doubt settled in, quietly, constantly, until it felt normal. By 2018, I could review a multi-million-dollar account faster than anyone on my team, but I could not say with certainty what had been said to me the night before. That should have scared me more than it did. At that point, I still thought I was dealing with a difficult marriage, stress, miscommunication, the kind of thing people fix if they try hard enough. I had no idea I was dealing with something much worse. The night everything shifted, I stayed late at the office. It was past 10, the building mostly empty, the city outside dim and quiet. I was reviewing a flagged transaction that should have been routine, but something about it felt constructed. Too clean, too precise. Adrian hated when I stayed late. "You do not need to prove anything," he would say. "Let someone else handle it." He said it like he was protecting me. Maybe part of him believed that. That night, he was not there. His office door was open, lights still on. I told myself to ignore it, to finish my work and go home, that looking would change something I was not ready to face. I walked in anyway. His laptop sat open on the desk. I told myself I was just checking a detail tied to the transaction, that it was work, nothing more. Then a message appeared in the corner of the screen. "You said you would finish it before she notices." The name above it was Lena Hart. My chest tightened, but not in a way that made me panic. It felt slower than that, heavier. I clicked before I could talk myself out of it. What I saw was not what I expected. There were no emotional messages, no apologies, no hesitation, just planning. Dates, transfers, percentages. They were not hiding anything from each other. They were aligning. I read through it twice before one line stopped me completely. "She has been doubting herself for years. That is why this will work." I sat there staring at it, feeling something shift into place inside me. At that moment, I still thought I was dealing with a cheating husband. I was wrong. This was not about betrayal in the way I understood it. This was structure, a plan. I closed the laptop carefully, making sure nothing looked disturbed. My hands were steady. That was the part I noticed most. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was thinking. I left the office without turning the lights back on. The hallway felt longer than usual, the quiet sharper, like every step was carrying me into something I could not step back from. When I got home, Adrian was already there, sitting in the living room with a glass of whiskey, tie loosened, sleeves rolled just enough to look relaxed. "You're late," he said. His voice was even, familiar. I set my bag down and gave him a small smile. Couldn't sleep, thought I'd finish a few things. He stood and walked over, placing a light kiss on my forehead. It was something he'd always done, something that used to make me feel grounded. "You push yourself too hard, Rowan." I nodded. "You might be right." He looked at me for a moment longer than usual. Not suspicious, just attentive, like he was checking for something. I gave him nothing to find. He stepped back and reached for his phone. It buzzed almost immediately. I saw the name before he turned it over. Lena. He didn't open it, just placed it face down on the table like it didn't matter, like she didn't matter. I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stared at my reflection in the dark window. I looked the same as always, calm, functional, unaffected. Inside, something had settled. For years, I'd let him define what was real, adjust the details, soften the edges, correct me until I stopped trusting my version of events. But numbers don't lie. Patterns don't lie. And now I could see the pattern. Adrian spoke from behind me. "You okay?" I turned and met his eyes. "Yeah, just tired." He held my gaze for a second longer, then nodded. "Get some rest." He walked away, already done with the moment, already certain everything was as it should be. That was when it became clear. This was never about misunderstanding. It was about control, and I had finally seen how it worked. I went to bed and lay there long after his breathing settled beside me. Every conversation, every correction, every moment I had questioned myself started to rearrange. Not confusion anymore. Structure. If he had a plan, then it had a timeline. If it had a timeline, then it had gaps, and gaps could be found. For the first time in years, I trusted what I felt without needing him to confirm it. Quietly, carefully, enough. I turned onto my side, facing away from him, listening to the same steady breathing that used to make me feel safe. It didn't feel that way anymore. He thought I was still the same person, the one who doubted herself before she doubted him. He was wrong. I was done being rewritten. And this time, I wasn't just going to remember. I was going to make sure he could never hide it again. Chapter 2. The next morning, he made coffee like nothing had happened. He stood at the counter, calm, steady, moving like the world still made sense. The smell filled the kitchen, familiar enough to almost fool me. "You look worn out," he said. "Maybe take a step back from compliance for a few days." I watched him pour the coffee, slow and careful. "I think you are right," I said. He nodded, satisfied. That was his first mistake. I stopped pushing. I stopped correcting him in meetings. I stopped asking questions he did not want to answer. And the moment I did that, I disappeared. Invisible people are easy to ignore, but they see everything. It started small. Within a few days, my access shifted. Not gone, just limited. Enough to slow me down. Enough to make it look routine. Meetings moved without me. Reports closed without my sign-off. Files stopped landing on my desk. I did not react. I smiled when people walked by. I said, "Good morning," like I always had. But I was watching more closely than ever. Patterns started to form. Approvals rerouted. Decisions made faster than they should have been. Names showing up in places they never used to be. He was not removing me all at once. He was making me unnecessary. One afternoon, Lauren paused outside my office. "You okay?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. "I am fine," I said. She hesitated, then nodded. Things are shifting, she said quietly, then walked away before I could answer. That told me enough. People saw it. They just weren't going to stand in front of it. The first real move came at the leadership meeting that Thursday. Same room, same table, same seat I had taken for years. Marcus ran the meeting like he always did. Calm, measured, in control. Halfway through a discussion, he paused. "Elowin's department has been inconsistent lately," he said. The word settled into the room. Inconsistent. Soft enough to sound reasonable, sharp enough to stick. I felt the shift without looking. Eyes moving, people adjusting in their seats. I kept my voice steady. "What specifically are you referring to?" He gave a small shrug. "A few discrepancies. Nothing serious, but something we should keep an eye on." No one spoke. Lauren looked down at her notes. Another director cleared his throat but said nothing. No one defended me. That was the point. He was not just questioning my work, he was teaching everyone how to doubt me. The meeting moved on like nothing had happened. But everything had. When it ended, people gathered their things quickly. Conversations stayed light. No one lingered. I packed my notebook slowly. As I stood, Marcus stepped closer and touched my arm. "We will talk later," he said. I nodded once. Of course. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in my home office, the house quiet, and logged in through an older system pathway I knew had not been updated yet. If he was building something, there would be traces. There are always traces. I pulled the system logs. At first, it looked normal. Routine access, standard approvals. Then I filtered by user credentials. Mine. That's when I saw it, and my stomach dropped. Entries I did not recognize. Approvals I never made. Transactions tied to my name that I had never even seen. The timestamps were wrong. Late night, early morning, hours I was not working. I stared at the screen, forcing myself to slow down. This was not random. This was not error. He was not making mistakes. He was building evidence. I scrolled further. The pattern was careful. Small changes first, nothing big enough to trigger alarms. Then larger ones spaced out just enough to look natural. Layered. Intentional. If someone audited this, it would lead back to me. Every line pointed in the same direction. I leaned back in my chair. The fear hit first, cold and sharp. Then something steadier pushed through. Clarity. If he was writing this story, then he had already decided how it would end, unless I changed it first. I reached for my phone and pulled up a contact I hadn't touched in years. Noah Carter. We had worked together before everything started to shift, before Marcus had full control. I pressed call. He answered quickly. "Hello?" "It's me," I said. A pause. "Elowin." His voice changed now, more alert. "I think my husband is setting me up." Silence. Then a quiet breath. "I've been trying to prove that for years," he said. "Then help me now. Send me everything." I did. Logs, screenshots, every inconsistency I could find. We didn't talk again that night. The next morning, I booked a flight to Chicago. Neutral ground. Away from the office, away from Marcus. Noah was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with his laptop open. He looked older, more worn down, but his eyes were sharp. "You look the same," he said as I sat down. "You do not," I replied. He almost smiled. "Good. That means I've been paying attention." I slid into the seat across from him. "Tell me what you see." He turned the screen toward me and started going through the files. He didn't rush.
He checked everything twice, compared timestamps, followed patterns. The silence stretched, but it wasn't empty. It was focused. Finally, he leaned back. "This is worse than I thought," he said. "How?" He tapped the screen. "He's not just using your credentials, he's structuring the transactions so they connect back to you over time. So it looks intentional." "Yes." My chest tightened. "Can it be proven?" He met my eyes. "Yes, but it won't be easy." I nodded. Nothing about this was supposed to be easy. He closed the laptop halfway. "Do you understand what this means?" "Say it." He held my gaze. "Fraud." The words settled in slowly. Not just betrayal, not just manipulation. Legal damage. If this played out the way Marcus wanted, I wouldn't just lose my job, I would lose everything. And he would walk away clean. Noah leaned forward slightly. "He's building a case where you're the problem," he said. I looked at him, steady now. "Then we change the case." He studied me for a moment. "This is going to get messy." I nodded. "It already is." Outside, the city moved like nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to understand what Marcus was doing. I was trying to stay one step ahead of him, which meant I was no longer guessing. I was hunting.
Chapter 3. The first real crack did not come from the company. It came from my daughter. I noticed it before she said anything out loud. Iris stopped sitting next to Marcus at dinner. She kept her answers short, careful, like she was measuring every word before it left her mouth. At first, I told myself it was nothing, a phase, something that would pass if I did not make it bigger than it was. It did not pass. It settled in. One night, long after the house had gone quiet, she knocked on my door. "Come in." She stepped inside, holding her phone in both hands. Her voice was steady, but there was something under it. "Do you trust Dad?" I looked at her. Really looked this time. "I used to," I said. She nodded, like that was the answer she expected. Then she walked over and placed her phone in my hand. "Press play." I did. At first, it was just movement, a door closing, voices too low to catch. Then Marcus, clear, controlled. Vanessa's voice followed, softer, almost amused. "Once the audit flags her department, it is over." A pause. "She will not even see it coming." The recording ended. For a second, the room felt too quiet. This was not the first time they had said it. It was just the first time I heard it. "How long have you had this?" I asked. "A week?" I kept my voice even. "Why did you not tell me?" She did not hesitate. "Because you always defend him." That landed harder than anything Marcus had done. There was no anger in her voice, just certainty. I had taught her that. Every time I chose to believe him instead of what I felt, every time I explained something away, every time I stayed. I set the phone down carefully. "I am not asking you to trust me," I said. "I am asking you to look at the truth with me." She studied my face, searching for something she had not seen in me before. For a second, I thought she would walk away. Then she nodded. "Okay." We started quietly. She paid attention to things I had stopped noticing. When Marcus stepped outside to take calls, when Vanessa showed up, always with a reason that sounded just reasonable enough. What time he left the house, what time he came back. I started noticing things I could not ignore. Calls ending when I walked into a room, messages disappearing too quickly, doors closing just a second too fast. It was small, but it was everywhere. The house no longer felt neutral. It felt watched. Noah kept digging. We spoke every night. I sent him everything Iris noticed, every detail, every shift.
The timeline stretched further than I expected. What I thought had started recently reached back months, then years. One night, Noah called earlier than usual. His voice was tighter. "I found something," he said. He sent over a file. I opened it right away. Old records. Archived transactions, buried deep enough that no one would find them without a reason. Marcus's pattern was there. Less polished, but still deliberate. I followed the entries slowly. Then I saw a name that did not belong. My father. I froze. It wasn't recent, years ago, but it was there. Connected. I called Noah back. "Why is my father in this?" He exhaled. "Because Marcus tried to use him." Something inside me shifted again. "I'm going to Chicago." I did not think about it twice. The next morning, I was on a flight. The city felt colder when I landed. Sharper, like something underneath it had always been there, waiting for me to notice. My father opened the door before I knocked. He looked at me, not surprised. "You found something," he said. I walked past him into the house. "Did Marcus ever try to use you?" He closed the door behind me. "Yes." The answer came too easily. "When?" "A few years ago, before your promotion." "What did he ask you to do?" He sat down slowly. "He wanted me to approve something, said it was routine, said it needed to move fast." "And you refused?" "Yes." "Why?" He met my eyes. "Because it looked wrong." I felt my jaw tighten. How wrong? Like laundering. The word hit harder than I expected. "You knew," I said. "Enough." The anger came fast this time. "You let me marry him." He did not look away. "You chose him back then. You would have chosen him over me." The truth of that landed between us. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Because he was right. Back then, I would have defended Marcus without hesitation. I would have explained everything away. I would have chosen the easier version of reality. Silence filled the room. Then my father spoke again, quieter now. "He's been building this for years." I sat down slowly. Everything started to line up. The slow shifts, the careful timing, the way nothing ever felt urgent until it was too late. This was not something that had started recently. It had been designed, tested, refined. "I thought it was an affair," I said. He shook his head. "No. This is a system." The words settled into place. System. Not emotion, not impulse. Structure. Control. I looked at my hands, then back at him. "Where does it end?" He did not answer right away. "It doesn't. Not unless someone stops it." I nodded slowly. For the first time, I could see the full shape of it. Marcus was not reacting. He was executing. Every step, every detail, every piece of evidence, all leading somewhere very specific. I was not just inside his plan. I had been placed there. And if I did not break it soon, it would close around me completely. Unless I destroyed it first.
Chapter 4. I did not rush after that. That was the part no one saw coming. Marcus expected me to react, to fight too early, to make noise before I had anything solid to stand on. That was how he controlled people. He pushed them into mistakes and then stepped back while they buried themselves. So I gave him nothing. I stopped correcting him. I stopped defending my work. I let the narrative settle in. Elowin is slipping. Elowin is overwhelmed. Elowin cannot keep up. I heard it in the quiet conversations that stopped when I walked into a room. I saw it in the way people avoided eye contact, like I had already become a problem they did not want to be associated with. Marcus watched all of it, and he believed it. That was his second mistake. With Noah, we built the structure underneath his lies. We did not just collect evidence. We mapped patterns.
Every approval, every transfer, every delayed flag. We traced it back until it stopped looking like isolated actions and started looking like design. Years of it. Careful. Intentional. With Ethan Brooks, we turned it into something the board could not ignore. He was precise in a way that forced everything into clarity. No assumptions, no emotional language, just facts that connected cleanly, one after the other. One afternoon, he looked at me and said, "You only get one chance to present this." I know. If you move too soon, he buries it. And if I wait too long, he buries you. That was the line I had to walk. With Iris, things were different, slower, more fragile. She did not trust easily anymore. Not him, not me. But she stayed. She paid attention. She told me when Marcus stepped outside for calls that lasted just a little too long. She noticed when Vanessa showed up, always with a reason that sounded just believable enough. One night, she sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Are you going to win?" I did not hesitate. "Yes." She held my gaze for a second, then nodded. That was enough. We waited. That was the hardest part. Every day, I walked into the office and let Marcus move things forward. I let him finalize reports, push recommendations, tighten the narrative around me. I let him believe he was in control. Control makes people confident. Confidence makes them careless, and careless people stop checking for threats. When everything was ready, when every document was signed and every decision locked in, the board meeting was scheduled. Chicago, the same city where everything had started to unravel. That morning, I stood outside the building for a moment, just long enough to feel the weight of it. Everything he had built, everything I was about to break. Inside, the room was already filling. Board members took their seats, quiet conversations fading as Marcus stepped into position at the head of the table. Vanessa sat beside him, calm, certain. She did not look at me. That told me everything. Ethan sat near me, a file resting in front of him, untouched. Noah stood in the back, silent, watching. Marcus opened the meeting. His voice was steady, measured, confident. "We need to address a serious concern regarding compliance." He paused just enough to hold the room. Then he looked at me. "Elowen's actions have exposed the company to risk." There it was, clean, final. He laid it out the way we expected. Discrepancies, unauthorized approvals, a pattern that suggested negligence. He made it sound reasonable. That was what made it dangerous. Vanessa added a few comments, reinforcing his narrative without pushing too hard. They had done this before, just never this far. Marcus finished and looked around the table. "I believe it is in the company's best interest to move forward with a leadership change." Silence followed. This was the moment he had been building toward. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Before any vote, we need to present additional evidence." Marcus did not react right away. He looked at Ethan, then at the file. "I am not aware of any additional material that would change the current assessment." Ethan slid the file forward. "You are now." For a second, no one moved. Then Lydia reached for it. Her hand paused on the edge, just for a moment. I felt it. If she pulled back, if she chose silence, Marcus would move the vote forward, and this would end before it even started. Marcus sensed it too. He said, "We should proceed," he said smoothly. "We can review anything else after the vote." That was the moment everything almost slipped. Then Lydia spoke. "I want to review it." The room shifted, not loudly, but enough. She opened the file. Pages turned. Eyes scanned. The silence changed. Ethan began. He walked them through it step by step. The recordings, the unauthorized access, the transactions layered over time, the pattern that tied everything back to Marcus. No speculation, no emotion, just facts that connected cleanly, one after the other. For the first time, Marcus had nothing to explain, because everything had already been explained for him. Vanessa stopped writing. She stared at the pages like she'd never seen them before. Marcus stayed still, watching, calculating. Julian Pierce leaned forward. You hid this from the board. It was not a question. Marcus did not answer. He looked at me, not angry, not defensive, aware. For the first time, he was not controlling the room. I was. I did not rush to speak. I let the silence settle, let it press in on everyone. Then I looked around the table, one by one. I did not bring this forward sooner because I needed to understand the full scope. No one interrupted. I needed to be sure. I paused. It was never a mistake. I met Marcus's eyes. It was built. The words landed the way they needed to, heavy, final. No one spoke after that, because the version of the story Marcus had been telling no longer held together. It had been replaced, and for the first time he had to sit in a room where he was not the one deciding what happened next. But the way he looked at me before the silence broke told me something else. He was not finished yet.
Chapter 5. He tried to keep his face steady, like he always did when things started slipping out of his control, but I could see it now. That quiet panic behind his eyes, the kind he used to make me feel. I did not give him anything to hold on to. I stood up, walked out, and let the silence finish the conversation for me. What followed was not dramatic. No slammed doors, no shouting, no moment where everything collapsed at once. It came apart slowly, and then all at once. Within weeks, Daniel Hayes was no longer in control of North Shore Insights. At first, it looked like nothing had changed. Meetings still happened, emails still went out, his name was still on everything that mattered. But people started asking questions. Not loudly, not all at once. Just enough. Board members who used to agree with him began hesitating. Partners who trusted him started reviewing things they had ignored before. Small inconsistencies turned into larger ones, and for the first time, he was the one trying to explain himself. No one was buying it. Ryan moved his shares early before the situation could tighten around him. Melissa cooperated when the internal review turned into something external. What had been controlled inside the company started leaking outward. Then came the audits. Then the attorneys, then the parts no one could contain anymore. Melissa was charged within months. Financial fraud, conspiracy, the words sounded clinical, distant, until you realized how close they were. Daniel fought everything. He always believed he could out-talk consequences. But exposure does something talking cannot fix. It removes the version of you that other people believed in. And once that version is gone, there is nothing left to protect you. I expected to feel something bigger when it all settled. Relief, maybe satisfaction. Instead, it was quieter than that. The first time I walked into the office without replaying every decision in my head, I noticed it. The first time I spoke in a meeting and no one glanced at Daniel before responding, I felt it. The first time someone asked for my approval like it was the most normal thing in the world, I understood it. I did not win in a single moment. I won in pieces. I rebuilt the company carefully, not fast, not aggressively, just steady, with people who did not need control to feel secure and who did not confuse silence with agreement. It stopped being about proving anything. It became about not losing myself again. Lena came back home gradually. I did not rush her. I did not ask questions she was not ready to answer. We started small. Dinners that didn't feel tense. Conversations that didn't feel like they could break at any second. Trust did not return all at once, but it came back honestly. One night, my phone rang. I knew it was him before I even looked. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. Then I answered. He did not say hello right away. He never did when he was unsure of his position. "Did you plan all of it?" he asked. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. remembering all the times I had questioned myself because of him, all the times I had let his version of events override my own. "No," I said. "You did." Silence. Longer this time. Then his voice shifted, just slightly. "Lena will not talk to me." That was it. Not the investigations, not the company, not the money. That. Karma does not always make a scene. Sometimes it just takes the one thing you cannot replace and leaves you there with the understanding of why. And in that moment, he sounded like someone who finally understood. Just not in time for it to matter. After that, I stopped thinking about him the way I used to. He was no longer something I had to solve, no longer something I had to survive, just someone who made his choices and now had to live with them. There was a time I would have gone over every detail, trying to figure out where I went wrong. I did not do that anymore, because clarity does not come from someone else finally admitting the truth. It comes from the moment you stop asking them for it. And once that happens, there is nothing left for them to take from you. I used to think winning meant being believed. Now I know it's something else. It's trusting yourself without needing confirmation. It's standing in your own reality without asking permission. He spent years rewriting my reality, and in the end, he lost everything trying to control it. Now when I walk into that office, it feels different. Not lighter, just clearer. I don't second-guess my words. I don't measure my reactions. I don't look around to see who is watching. I just move forward, and that's enough. If you've ever been in a situation where someone made you question your own reality, I want to hear your take. Would you have stayed and tried to fix it, or would you have walked away sooner? Because sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving, it's realizing you were never the problem to begin with. And once you see that clearly, everything else starts to fall back into place. If this story meant something to you, stay with me. Share your thoughts below, and follow along for more stories that might feel a little closer to your own.